back in town, on a radar. Baby, don't make me wait. Body like, been a long while, and I just wanna taste this be alone. I put it down when I come around. We won't sleep no way.
Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Talking Smack. Today, I have my friend Aaron on.
Yo.
Are we friends? Can I say that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
We know
for
each other
sure.
well
No,
enough
yeah.
now.
It's
Okay.
like the three. If I see you 3 times, like, and we chop
We're
it up,
homies.
like we're homies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, Aaron's on and we're going to talk about a ton of things today. I'm really excited to get into this with you because I feel like you have so much insight and you're vulnerable and you give
Yeah.
really deep like insight to how you're feeling about things. So
Yeah.
basically I want to jump right into it and ask you about, you've been on like this huge personal growth journey lately, and tell me a little bit about where that started, what you're doing to grow, and kind of your mindset around it.
Yeah. I feel like for me, it came to like a position where, like, my whole life, like, I had nothing really dramatic happen, like crazy, you know. So I was just going through the motions of life of not having really experienced like really hardships. And then about a year ago, like, I lost my uncle. That was very dear to us. And then from that, I've never dealt with like a death before in my family. Like someone I actually had a relationship with, like, you know, someone I was really close with on a day to day. And then that was hard. And then a couple months later, I lost a really close family friend. It was like a second mom to me. After that, I lost my relationship, fortunately. And then there was more to loss than that, but I never dealt with so much loss, you know, in my whole living experience. So, but I've always grew up to understand, like, at the end of the day, it's about where you send your direction when you're lost. So I was just feeling all these things at once, and I didn't know how to really express it. But I always knew if I just stay still. I think that's one of the biggest things I've been learning right now in this journey, this season. Because I call it a season of growth. I believe that everyone has like a season that they're in at the time of their life, and for my season, it's really just reflection and just seeing where it comes from, like the growth. And so yeah, I really dove deep in just myself. Like I was able to reflect and say, like, this can go either two ways. There's A or B. Like, I can get lost in it and like go downhill, or I can accept what's happening in my life right now and actually like find a healthy outcome, you know. When I started feeling all those losses, I just strictly I'm a big believer, right? So like I just really focused on my spiritual connection. I feel like your spiritual connection is the outroot to everything, you know. So I really started just, you know, I got back into church and started diving more in my faith and my belief. And right, because like when all that was happening to me, like, I was lost. I was like, yo, everything's blurred now. What's going on? I don't know what to do. But when you just like breathe and like, yo, like, just settle it down, be still, you know, I was really diving into like cutting out all distractions, like anything that could have caused the distractions for that time period in my season that I was going in through growth. I had to cut it out because it wasn't serving me in a way where I can move forward through that process of just healing. Within healing, I feel like it's important to be able to have reflection, because I feel like reflection is the main source to healing. And being able to like say, okay, yo, this is what's happening. I have to accept it. I lost my uncle. I lost my family friend. I lost my relationship. Like, this is what's really going on. What am I gonna do about it? You know,
Right.
I'm not gonna sit there and like, yeah, like, it's normal to grieve and like mourn and like, you know, whatever. But it's like, okay, at some point, it's actually like, what's the goal here? Like, do you want to stay stuck in here, or do you want to like surpass it and overcome it? You know, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
When all of that was happening and when you were dealing with that and you were feeling lost, do you feel like you go inward to where you don't want to be around anyone? Or did you feel like you were like, okay, I need to be vulnerable and I need to have friendships that I can reach out to and be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
Like, because I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but like, as a female, I feel like it's easier to ask for help sometimes when it comes to that.
Most
I don't
definitely.
deal with that. I feel like it's harder for me to actually reach out and be like, I'm struggling. But do you feel like you have a core group of friends that you get to go to and can actually help you through that? Or do you feel like it was more the inward things that helped you start to kind of move and grow and be productive again?
So that's interesting you say that, because I feel like where I've always been at in my life, I always knew I had a solid group of support. So I always knew that I had people around me that I can go to. The support people that really understand what's really going on, and those are the people that really have to really, the good and bad. Because if you just tell someone about the bad in a relationship, of course they're gonna give you bad insight. You know, if you
Right.
give someone who's never dealt with the death before, they're not gonna be able to tell you how you know what I'm saying. So it's really just picking and choosing how you want to go about certain people. So I felt like in that aspect, I was like, look, my biggest thing is just being still, like just accepting it, feeling it, but also knowing that I'm not alone. And that's where a lot of spirituals comes into my life, you know, like knowing that I had God there 24/7, listening to worship music, you know, going to church, you know, reading my devotions, like.
And I think there's a difference too between going to someone to have them solve your problems or going to someone and just saying, I have so much that I'm carrying.
Yeah.
I need to talk about this. I
Yeah.
need to get this off off my chest. Can you please just listen to me? Like,
Yeah.
I just need you to listen. I just
Yeah.
need to get rid of this,
Yeah.
which is why it's like, you know, that's sometimes hard because I'm a fixer. Like
Yeah,
if you come to me
same,
with a problem,
same.
I want to fix it and I
Yeah.
want to help you, like walk you through it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to be that person too. That's like, okay, I'm just going to listen and I'm going to take a step back and let you just get it all out. And that's tough.
I feel like for me to even answer that question even deeper is like, I had to let go. I had to let go of all control. Because like you can't, like it's harder when you can't control something. I can't control my uncle passing away or Sher passing or my family friend or my girl leaving me. I can't do any of that. I can't control that. So when I just let go and say, look, like I have faith that everything will be okay. When you do that, you get clear vision on like, what is the next step now? What does that look like? How is that going to benefit you in the long run? So when I just like, you know what, let me just let go. Let me stop chasing her. Let me stop finding myself in a negative reflection of like what I miss and what I could have done or what this and that. Let me put myself, okay, what can I do now moving forward? And I think when I started to do that, I started really just to feel peace because like it's out of my hands.
Right.
I had to just make a decision. I was like, look, like I can't do this, you know, I cannot handle all this going on right now. And I don't want to because I've tried doing that within relationships in general. Like you try to force it or and it just doesn't go your way, you know? And that's where I felt like I was at with my relationship with myself. Like, yo, if you continue to keep doing this to yourself, it's going to get ugly and it's going to change you. And it did change me a lot. Like through about these past 3 years, like I wasn't the same person. A lot of things changed me. And that's because I was trying to force everything. I was trying to become someone who I wasn't for somebody. I was trying to be more than enough for somebody. So like that really is what made me realize like, yo, I already tried this. It didn't go well. So let me just try the healthy way, you know, which I was able to identify it was healthy after reflecting on how unhealthy I was, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
Do you think like you trying to become this person for someone else, it was something you set up in your own mind? Or do you think that's something that your relationship with that person, like they were asking for those things and you're like, I'm not this, or just like social media and everything that we see and everything's a highlight reel. We have to be perfect and we have to be fit and we have to be whatever. Like, I'm sure it's a combination of all the things. Yeah. But
it's a little bit of everything, honestly. It's for one, I wasn't, I'm very picky when it comes to dating.
Which is good. You should be.
My view set is I don't date just to experience. I date for a future, right? Like, so like when I've never really had a lot of girlfriends, so I wasn't really experienced in that realm of like, I'm only 25. Like as like this was my first real. Everyone knows like their real first relationship. Yeah. Right? Everyone has that first relationship that was real. That felt like the man I've dated every once in a while, girlfriend, boyfriend, high school stuff, but in a real relationship, like this was my first one. So a lot of it was like I didn't know I was doing all this stuff. I was just trying to be the best man I could have, you know. And I'm not perfect. Like I've had my faults, and I'm not gonna sit here and I'm this perfect man. But that was the biggest thing. And also, like people's expectations. Like for me, I would never really care about people's expectations. Like I didn't care too much. But on the other hand, the other person, you know, about the image or how they want to be looked on or what they want to perceive on social media. And social media does suck now for relationships. There's so much expectation there that it's unhealthy. That's why like now I've been able to like separate myself from my personal life on social media, and I'd rather have that conversation in person, right? Like I'm very particular on what I want to show, because not because I want to be fake or anything, it's just because I want to be able to have control of like who I am, not what social media perceives me to be. You know?
And who has access to you too,
exactly.
and who has access to those private pieces of you. And I feel like that's something that I've kind of struggled with feeling like I need to put all the things in my life on social media, and it's not true. You get to choose what you put on social media, and I feel like that's why I've kind of tried to make a shift of being like, no, I've struggled with anxiety. I'm going through it. Like I've divorced. I'm going through all these things, and like because so many people would say like, oh, this looks perfect, or your life looks amazing, or this, that, and the other. And it's like, you don't have a peek behind the door.
Yeah.
And I think that also should translate to like, don't judge anyone because you've never walked a day in their shoes.
Yeah.
You have no idea their childhood traumas. You have no idea what they've gone through in their life. And social media is not the be all end all. It's not the vanity metrics and whatever and the likes. Like it's so easy to get so caught up in thinking you have to portray yourself a certain way on social media. And I feel like with my ex, my last relationship, I remember thinking when we were dating, I was always like, oh, we have to get this cute picture. We have to do this. And
For the gram.
Yeah, we got to do it for the gram. And I wasn't really present because I was constantly like, oh, we got to redo that picture. We got to do this because in my head, I was like, I need to show everyone that I'm having this great time. I need to do this. And I feel like now I have so much more peace. I'm so much more grounded, not even taking pictures of where we are or doing anything. And of course, like we want to get some pictures. We want to have those memories, even if they don't get thrown up on Instagram. But it's like being able to look at it now differently and look at it like I am focused on being present in my life and enjoying where I am instead of thinking about what these expectations are for me to show up on Instagram.
No, yeah, I think that's very, like, even what you just said, present. I've in my growing stage right now, my healing stage, I've definitely, not even really, but it's like what I'm learning, right? Like what I'm learning right now. And what I didn't really realize back then is, like we talked about it off camera, that quote that I posted, it was very important. I think that's where it's at now. And, the one where it's like, stress comes from the past, anxiety comes from towards the future, like looking towards the future, then peace comes from being present. I think in my past, I always know that my stress came from what I could have done, or what I should be at. And then my anxiety will always come from where am I going to go?
Right.
And not having that direction, and not having, just trying to control that direction. Right. And I'm at a point now where I'm so much more peaceful than ever because like, I'm just always in the present now. Like that's the biggest thing is being in the, like, of course have your goals, like what you want to become, like what you want to do. But when you just focus so much on that, you don't get shit done. You're just constantly thinking about what's going to be in the future instead of actually being present and say, what can I do right now to get myself there? And I think that's a lot of things that really helped me a lot to find my most growth, even in the gym or like spiritual, or like just because when you're always thinking about what I want to do, it's like that thought's always there. But when you're actually like in the present saying, okay, what am I going to do today to do that? Like that's when you see the most results. That's when you see the most growth. Like, yo, like I never, like I was even telling about like, even Cameron off camera, like I never expected to see myself in a certain way in the gym ever. And I've been getting so much results lately because I wasn't thinking about, I wonder how it would look like, or one day I want to get in the gym and be this big. No, it's like, no, I'm doing it. Like, right. Like I'm present. Like
you're enjoying the process
exactly.
and you're going to get to that goal, but it's not, you're not upset where you're at right now because you're not at that goal. That's something my trainer actually asked me the other day. He asked me if I was happy with my results, and he asks me this every so often. And I was like, I'm so happy. I feel stronger. I feel mentally more clear and so many other things. And he's like, I know we're not at your like end goal where you want to be. And I was like, it doesn't even matter anymore. I'm so happy with the process. And I think that's where a lot of people, and we were talking about this off camera, is we want the blueprint. We want to get to the goal. We want the steps on how to get somewhere. And we need to fall in love with the process because someone else's point A to point B is going to be completely different than mine and completely different than yours.
Exactly.
And if you fall in love with the process and you fall in love with how you like doing things, or what actually brings you joy, what actually brings you peace, you're going to be so much happier than thinking, oh, I got to keep up with the Joneses on Instagram.
Yeah, for real. And that's the biggest thing that I've realized right now is everybody just wants that vacation, but no one wants to put the work in for it. Where I was at 6 months ago, I never would have thought I would have been at this much peace in my life. Like some people might say, like, for example, like Maclash, oh my gosh, she's a successful entrepreneur. She's doing her thing. But it's like, no one really knows what goes into that. But people only see the end result.
Right.
But it's like, if you sat down like, yo, you have to do X, Y, Z. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, yeah, never mind. I don't want to do that shit anymore. Right. Because it's a lot of work.
It is.
And I think that's what people is just has those ideas or those dreams. But it's like, yo, it's great to have a dream, but also be prepared for what comes for that. So
like how much work, time, effort actually goes into it. Like someone even said that the other day. I said that I don't take clients anymore. And they were like, oh, so you just get to come in and do whatever. And I was like, I put so many years in, like 7 full years, 6.5 years probably, of taking clients full time or working 6 days a week. I remember when we first opened the shop, I was here like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. most nights. And that was like 4 or 5 days a week because there was so much to be done. And I put so much pressure on myself and I didn't talk about it
Of
when
course.
we were doing it. I was constantly running home to check on the dogs. Like I was in a constant state of stress and I knew that that was not something that I wanted. I knew I wanted to feel peace. I knew I wanted to be able to be present and in the moment. And so I had to change things in my business to be able to get there. But I feel like it is something that I was looking at so much, even just, a year ago and how different the person I am now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people get caught up is they think, oh, well, I have to get to point B. And instead of looking at it like, okay, I need to take one step and then I need to take one more step and then I take one more step. They think they have to do it all at once. Nothing is ever going to be all at once. Nothing is overnight, especially in the gym. Instant gratification is not a thing.
If I could go to the gym once
I
and
know.
get a 6-pack.
If I could eat one chicken, rice, and broccoli meal and lose 10 pounds, that would be great. But it's not like that. Nothing in life is like that. And you have to, like we've been talking about, fall in love with the process and get used to working hard for what you want. And I think that's what sets people apart is having the dedication and the commitment to actually following the steps to get to their goals. And I feel like one thing that's helped me, if I write out a goal of where I want to be, I start writing, how am I going to get there? And I just brain dump everything. And I feel like that makes it a lot more clear on the steps I have to take. Cause I feel like that's where people get caught up is they say, I don't know where to start. You intuitively know. I feel like people know more than they think they do. And that's why I love journaling because I start writing down all these things. Or even if I have like feeling a lot of emotions or feeling anxious, I'll just start writing down and things will pop up that I didn't even think I was anxious about. And I feel like is something that helped me when I started to want to work towards other goals.
And it's like we said again off camera, like even going into that, it's you don't got to be great to start. You got to start to be great. Like I heard that a long time ago and that stuck with me so much. That's why everything I do now, like I love the process. And that goes just in the process. That pretty much means like there's going to be a process of that and you don't got to be great right now. But if you eventually start and you be consistent, you will become great at what you do. And even like going off what you just said right now, I think it's very important that when you said like when you were stressed out at 8 a.m., you're doing all these things when you're building this business and that. I feel like the fact that you're able to come on this and express that now is important because especially what I'm learning now, being vulnerable when I find my healing, right? Like I don't want to be vulnerable when things are shit. Like, I mean, it's cool to be that, but like, I don't want that to like be the main objective, like to just let everything else negative and let that direct you in a certain way. Like,
you want to share what you've learned from
and that's why some people can get that persona of like, oh, like people can be perfect on social media, but it's like, no, people need time to heal so they can come back and express and be vulnerable. Cause that's like I told you too, like, vulnerability can lead to breakthrough. And I'm really strong. Like I heard my pastor say that and it really hit home for me. I was like, dang, that's so true because you just being vulnerable with somebody after your healing, after your growth, after everything you learn can actually help them move forward in what they're going through in their season. So that's why for me, like even recently, I'm like, you know what, let me start being vulnerable with the people that follow me. Cause I still think it's powerful that my vulnerability can lead to their breakthrough. So,
and it touches people's lives that you'll never even know.
Exactly. And I've had people message me saying like, "Thank you so much for this post. Like, I needed this, and or like it's not that I'm big or popping like that. It's just like even your small circle. Like it's important that, for example, like I wasn't telling people right away what I was going through, my circle, but being able to go back and say, yeah, like I was going through that, and this is what I've learned through the journey. That's way more powerful than knowing that you're just negative, like you're just down, you're sad, you're going through something. I think it is important to be say, hey, it's okay not to get all the answers right away to your problems. It's okay to like go through a process of pain, reflection, and then being able to tell somebody about what you learned. That's why like now you'll see me like I went through so much stuff and I was low key about a lot of the stuff. Some stuff that people knew that I was passing, but how I felt about a lot of that, like how I felt. People knew what I was knew what happened, but they didn't know how I was feeling about it. And I feel like in order for like I wanted to voice that when I was ready to add value to people, not be hey, yo, feel sorry for me because this happened.
Yeah.
But I want there to be value in what I've learned. So maybe there's someone who experienced the death they never experienced, or a lost relationship that they put so much work into, or whatever it is. There can be some type of relationship that can like stick with them. Like, wow, like that was important. That really helped me. I needed to hear that. Like, that's the best. When you get those messages, like, yo, I really need to hear that. Thank you. Like that, because I feel like that's a big purpose in my life, just to touch people, like just to really be a voice for people and help them. And I feel like the only way, if we do that more often, just being vulnerable, what we learned, that can lead to so much growth and so much breakthrough for people. So,
and I feel like you're really comfortable being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I've learned to be comfortable
Yeah.
being vulnerable, but I want to ask you too, like, do you think it's harder for men to be vulnerable in
100,000%,
relationships, on
yeah.
social media, everything? Like I know just from what we've talked about off camera, just the expectations men have on them.
Like, dating is super hard. Like, being vulnerable while dating. Like, yeah, I could hear it all the time. People were like, yeah, well, I just want a man who can be vulnerable with me, and blah, blah. It's like, yeah, okay. Until it
It's
actually
like,
happens.
do you actually?
Until it actually happens. Until someone opens up, hey, yo, I don't really like this and that, and they're open up to you, and you're like, well, that's just insecurity. You're just being secure. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's why we don't say nothing. You know, that's why we don't open up.
I feel like, and I think I talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, but I have always been a little more emotionally unavailable. Not that I can't be vulnerable, but that I like keep everything really close to my chest for a long time before I feel really comfortable with someone or that I trust them. And so I feel like that's led me to attract more emotional men, and they open up right away. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I feel safe to do this, I guess, because we're both sharing these things.
Yeah.
But I think too, like one thing I wanted to say is this quote I saw, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to say it correctly, but it's saying like, you're never going to say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yeah,
and I think it comes down to, and I know we've talked about this, but just being so authentically yourself and not losing sight of who you are, because you're going to attract that right person.
Yeah,
and if it's
for
a
sure.
fit, it's a fit. And if it's not, then you're one person closer to your right person.
Exactly.
And I think that was something I had to really get comfortable with after getting divorced and starting to date again, and just knowing, like, because I've always been like, oh, well, I don't want to be too much, or I don't want to be this or that.
It's so hard nowadays.
It's
like,
so hard.
So much work just to like, it's so much thought process now in dating. It's crazy. Like having to watch every move you make, walk on every eggshell, because of just this is the way society's been built. Relationships now, it's not the same anymore. It's so much harder. Like, I've been out the game for 2 years, 2.5 years, and that by itself is like, everything's changed. It's so much different now.
Well, especially with all the apps, like you literally have unlimited options. And I think that's like, it's helpful, but it's also kind of scary. Like, oh, they could be like, oh, they didn't like this one little thing about me, so they're just gonna on to the next. But then I look at it like, oh, I can do the same thing. I don't like this one little thing about this one guy. Like,
And it's scary.
I can go date somebody else.
Because then you're 45 years old and you're not married or anything or doing anything. It's like, damn. It's like, because just think about it, it's so funny.
Have you gone on any dates since?
No.
No?
I'm a big believer that if you're not ready, like,
Yeah.
after a breakup, go talk to so and so, mess around. But it's like, yo, you're still going. Your why is wrong. The reason why you're doing that is not because you're ready. It's because you need a distraction.
Yeah.
Or you're hurt, and it's like, or you want revenge or whatever. Like, let me be the best version so that the next person that comes in my life has the best version. I'm not having to carry baggage onto what I just went through. That's not fair.
Yeah.
You know, carry this baggage, all this baggage of what I just went through or what I'm healing with, and being able to cause conflict in my next relationship. You know, so yeah, I'm chilling. Aaron's big chilling. I'm just focused on myself, focus on the grind, focus with building the right connections with the right people, right relationships, and being open. Yeah, so.
Do you feel like there's certain aspects going into like your next relationship
Oh.
that you want to like make very clear or
Yeah.
do things differently than you did in the past?
Yeah, and I think for me, I was always, to that person I came, like, it wasn't enough. The process I'm going through right now, it's going to be natural that when I do find somebody, it's going to be natural already what I've learned to go into that next relationship.
Exactly. Well, and hearing you say that like you weren't enough or feeling like you were giving your all, but it still wasn't enough. That's something that I felt in my last relationship. And it was just like, I constantly felt like a benchmark was being moved and I could never reach the expectations of what the other person wanted. And that is so hard, especially when you're a people pleaser and you are like, I'm doing everything in my power to make this a happy relationship. And when it still isn't enough, it's like, wait, like I'm wrong or
Yeah.
I'm not enough. And
Yeah.
like hearing that, even though that was never said to me, like that's what's in your mind of thinking like,
Yep.
oh, I'm not enough. I'm never going to be enough. I'm never going to
Yeah.
be able to please this person.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like now, like through therapy and self-reflection, like getting into like my faith and just doing all the inner work has made me look at it so differently and be able to really be authentically me and know that I am enough for the right person.
Yeah,
Like
it's just- yeah.
and that's just exactly
No.
coming back to what you said
Yeah.
is like, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And I feel like, I hope that helps some of the listeners or viewers because I know there's so many times and probably so many people that don't feel like they have people they can reach out to and be vulnerable with or just say like, oh, I've felt that in a relationship too. And I never looked at it in this way or being able to look at it like, no, I need to be me and the right person is going to come into my life. I don't have to chase anything.
Exactly. And yeah, and that's 100% how I felt about everything. It's just when you realize that it's not that I'm not enough, I'm just not the fit for that person. I'm not for that person.
Do you feel like one person always feels like they have more power than the other in a relationship? I know it's kind of a loaded question.
Just depends. It depends where you know where you stand.
Yeah. And I think that's where communication comes in too.
Because it just depends on where that person's at in life. If I'm doing my own thing and you're doing your own thing, by default, we should already understand what goes into doing our own thing. Like, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and you can be powerful together. Because I feel like sometimes, or at least the relationships I've been in, there's like somewhat of a power struggle of being like, who's on top or who's making the decisions or who's going to win this argument.
Yeah,
And, like,
I believe a lot of it, I don't know, a little more traditional, I guess.
okay, let me clarify. Like speaking like specifically to like more traditional, meaning like the man is the head of the household kind of thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I feel like too, I mean, I generally actually would prefer that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be the strong one
Yeah.
all the time. Like I want to be able to be like, for a lack of a better word, like the submissive partner. And I feel like the word submissive has such a negative connotation to it now.
Yeah.
But like I've never dated a man that I felt like I could submit to.
Yeah,
Like
and that's what it is, right?
because I'm the masculine energy and I'm that way at work and that's totally fine. I love stepping into that role. But then when it comes into my relationship, like, no, I do want to be like the playful girl. I want to be that feminine energy. I want to be able to take care of you. Like I want to be able to take care of a home and like make a nice place for you to come home to kind of thing. Like I want to be able to do that. And I feel like there's so many like power struggles between females feeling like that or feeling like, no, I need to be this strong and powerful.
So like obviously for you and your aspect, you just haven't met a man that can really be on that level with you. Like, oh, he has shit going on too. He's doing his thing. Or I truly believe that as men, we don't like, people get the mixed conception like, oh, well, he doesn't want me to be successful or have my own business. And that's not what the case is. That's great. Like we can relate, but we don't necessarily, that's not a deal breaker for us.
I feel like that was something that is a part of myself that I had to quiet down in my past relationships, multiple relationships. Like anytime something good for the business happened or anytime I like reached a goal or hit a new milestone, it was like a point of argument. I was so adamant about like, okay, give me 5 years. Like I can grow it to a point where I can take the time away, but like it's something that I'm so passionate about. Yeah. And I think that's a quality I really love in other people is when they're so passionate about something and they're passionate about their goals. Yeah. And like, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't perfect. I knew I spent way more time than I should have on the business when I could have been putting time and effort into a relationship, the relationships that I was in. But looking at that now moving forward, I feel like I've kind of looked at it as a balance and been able to see where I know I need to give up time on the business to focus on a relationship. And I feel like too, it's a quality that I'm looking for in a man going forward is that support and excitement and celebration rather than like, oh, that's cool. Like, so glad you started a podcast. Great, that's awesome. Sweet. But instead, like being able to have a partner that genuinely doesn't feel in competition with you, that can build you up and be excited and want to celebrate with you, I think is so huge. And I think everyone should be able to have that.
Yeah, because I feel like there's two things, either acceptance, like accept that my woman is going to be bigger than me in this work of field of financially or whatever it is, or saying, or boss up. You find
Yeah,
something to
do
do,
your own
right?
thing.
Do your own thing. Find a business or find something that you're interested in or find something that you're passionate about. Or because a lot of the time it's like they're not in the same mindset,
Yeah.
right? And that's what it is. Like if you're right here and he's right here, there's never going to be an understanding. It's always going to be hard. But if there's people on the same mindset, on the same type of, that's what I kind of said earlier, like know what you're getting yourself into. But I also did like, we always said, we hear it all the time, like you are who you surround yourself with, right? So if you're like, it's crazy to say, but maybe you need to check yourself. I'm so comfortable in this group because this is how I am too. That when you're able to say, I don't want to be like this no more. I want to have a growth mindset. I want to become better. I want to grow constantly in every area of my life, spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, everywhere. Then you start attracting people that are on the same mindset. Because then you start identifying, being aware, like, yo, when you have that aha moment and you're in the room with them, you're like, yo, this is kind of uncomfortable. I don't want to be here. Like, it's kind of weird. Like,
And growth comes from outside your comfort
and then
zone.
you just slowly start detaching yourself.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of like, I mean, I feel like social media has helped me find the Lash community and reach out. But like, how did you guys all meet?
So me and Cam met about like 2015. We entered a business opportunity. I'll say the least of that. And I always knew his wife. I grew up with her. I didn't grow up with her, but I was really close with her in middle school. She came for like a year. We were best friends that year. And I always knew her. So then when we got reconnected in this business opportunity, I met him, and I was always like visually creative. I always love being creative with, whether it's pictures, videos, fashion, whatever it is. I was always into that. So when I met him, I was like, bro, what you do is like, I didn't know about it. So I knew I was this type of person. I knew I loved it, but I didn't know any type of outlet or resources. So we connected really tough through that. And actually we were, because I have 3 brothers, and out of everybody at first, me and him weren't the closest. So when we started hanging out more, I was like, dude, like what you do is like, I didn't even say dude just sick, but I started just to like slowly gravitate myself towards him on a more and more connection level. And I started just honestly interning for him. Just I didn't even know I was interning. I was just, hey bro, like I'll go with you. Like that's fun. Or you're gonna be around what? You're doing this and that. I want to help. So I just literally was just like, yo, like, and then we just came so close to that. And then I interned for him for the first 2 years. Went part-time with him the third, fourth, and then now I'm, going full-time. So that's how I met him, and that's what we've known him ever since. We do everything together. Like I talk to him every single day, see him almost every single day. And then we met Andrew through a mutual friend he was just hosting, and I guess Cam and Andrew knew each other already, but they weren't like close. They just always like through the gram, like mutual. It was always mutual friends. They knew each other. But I met Andrew because we had a workout sesh, and he showed up, and we were just chopping it up. And I was like, oh, you know Cam? I know Cam too. I work with him. Oh, great. And then he kind of knew who we were with. So after that, we just started getting close, and then things started organically playing a part. And then we just started to come together, hanging out, and then that's how we built that. So
you guys are like your own little mastermind group.
Yeah,
like everything that you guys talk about, bouncing off ideas, keeping each other accountable. I just think that's so cool and so powerful. Especially for other people to start to maybe think that, that's something that they need in their lives.
No, you do. I'm going to tell you right now, you do. You need that. You need that. Because if not, you're going to be just walking through life bullshit and just wondering why you're not where you want to be at. And it's called depression. It's called anxiety. It's called all this stuff. And it's like, yo, like, it's little by little. It's not all happening fast. It's not all one time. But I can tell you right now, when you start and you become consistent and you start getting results, it's just like a snowball effect. Everything starts happening. Everything starts changing in your life. You start feeling better. You start, acting right. You start being present, so.
What do you think holds people back from starting in the first place?
Fear.
Fear, do you think it's inward or more outward,
fear
like judgment?
Everywhere. Fear within themselves that they don't believe in themselves. And a lot of it, fear is what people would think about them. But like I tell people all the time, the fact that you're starting, you're already beating 80% of people. Like, you know how many people have goals and dreams and they want to get like this, they want to get in the gym, they want to have this type of source of income, but they're not doing anything to do that. But that's what it is. But if you actually reverse that and say, damn, like I am doing this, not much people are doing this, who cares what people think about me or what I'm saying? A lot of it just falls off insecurities of themselves that they can't do it. They're not doing it, and it's just jealousy, it's envy, it's insecurity. Like, I wish I can do that, but they can't, so let me hate on this person for doing that. Like that's a lot of it comes down to. So it's just fear. It's really just I mean, I remember, for me, we're getting in the gym, it was the fear of the process. Like, damn, like I'm gonna show up looking thick, like I'm trying to look a certain way, but but then it's just starting like, yo, like, yeah, I'm gonna show up looking thick, but by the time I'm done, I'm gonna look amazing, and that's gonna be 10 times more valuable to me in feeding the soul that I can do it. So that the next time that something comes up my way, an opportunity comes my way, I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I can't do that.
It's your present self doing something for your future self.
Facts.
And that process and falling in love with it and getting excited. And like I was the same way. Like when I was getting out of my last relationship, I started working out again with a trainer the beginning of 2020. And I had gained like probably almost 30 pounds, and I just did not feel good. I was like, I cannot go to the gym. Like I'm embarrassed to go to the gym. I'm embarrassed to start again. And like knowing where I wanted to be, and just knowing too, like that process wasn't perfect for me, like getting to where I am now. Of course, I still have like other goals that I want to reach, but I feel so much better mentally. I feel so much better, healthier and everything, and just like changing my eating habits. But that's, not saying that I didn't have my random binge eating moments throughout. And like, I think too, that's where people get so hard on themselves and they want to quit. Because I told my trainer in the beginning, I was like, I like to binge eat. Like, I don't know where that started, or if it was because
Netflix.
or because like when I was lashing, I would lash all day, and I would go home and be so hungry. I would eat everything. And so I think I got used to doing that. And then when I started weaving in other meals, I still wanted to binge eat, or like I would eat a whole big bag of Doritos or something. So I told my trainer, I was like, this is one of my worries.
That's what Cam does sometimes. I love you, Cam, bro. That was just like
okay,
perfect.
but what flavor? The regular ones or
Ranch.
Cool Ranch?
I probably bounce back and forth.
Yeah, me too. I like both. We'll bring them to the set next time. But yeah, like looking at that, like I was telling him, I was like, I'm afraid that I'm just going to start binge eating and I'm going to ruin all this progress. And he's like, you can still eat what you want. Like try to portion control it. And I was like, okay. Like with me, who likes to just sit there and
start
eat
with
it
one
all.
chip, then you're down to the last chip.
Exactly.
Like, oh, shit,
but like now I'm in a mindset of, I've been working out with him for, I think I'm on my 7th month with him.
Oh, nice.
And now I'm like, I'm not even drawn to eat that way. I'm not even drawn to binge eat. I don't even buy chips anymore or anything like that, because it's like, I think to your point of, this is for future me, and present me is like, it's not worth it. And it comes back to what you were saying.
Is like exactly what
what's worth it. Yeah.
I think for me, like, for example, when you see someone like, I've even learned in a deeper scale, like going to the gym, know how much work it takes to go to the gym and get results and be consistent and showing up when you don't want to show up, and you want to just sleep in or whatever. I think what drives attraction to people who go to the gym is not that their looks, that's a part of it, but it's their discipline. Like, oh yeah, this person's disciplined, they're showing up every single day when they don't want to, they get results. Like, that's what's most attractive. It's like, like this person is in the gym constantly, discipline, and I think how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if they're disciplined in their area in their life and in the gym, they also carry that in certain other aspects in their life too, that they're disciplined. So I think that's huge.
It's tough to start, but once you do, it just
so
gets
hard.
easier.
It's so hard because you get so comfortable of just like, I'd rather just hang out with friends or be on my phone for 4 hours. But once you like get out of that, it's like, I was on my phone for 4 hours in bed, just chilling, not doing anything. That's crazy. Watching other people's lives, be entertained by other things, other people. Like, that's insane. And
mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
The way that you just said that, I want to say that again. You spent 4 hours watching other people's lives. Like, that is mind-blowing to me, thinking about like you could be present doing something for yourself,
building your own life.
Doing something that you actually enjoy. And not gonna lie, I do love a mindless scroll every now and then.
Course.
But
I'll be sending people funniest videos ever.
And some of that, like, it is nice to kind of unwind that way, but looking at it like, do you have goals? Are you driven? Do you want to get to a point where you're super excited about your life? Because I feel like that's hard. I feel like it, within the last 6-7 months, I've gotten really excited about my life.
Yeah.
Whereas
huge.
Before, it wasn't anything I thought of. It was just going through the motions, like, doing what I need to do, instead of what excites me. What is bringing me joy? How can I add value to other people's lives? Who's adding value to my life? And like, really getting excited about living life, because we have no idea how much time we have.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's huge. I think that's huge for sure.
I think it's important, and I hope everyone gets to that point where they can feel really excited about their lives.
Yeah, they need to, because it's like, if you're not, like I said, if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's like, what are you really doing here? And I get it's hard. We all have gone through some shit. We all have gone through some heartaches and pain, some crazy stuff that nowadays I don't even say I understand you anymore, because I don't.
Yeah.
I don't, like, I've learned that I always had a problem saying, oh yeah, I understand, but I don't understand. The audience now, that's why I love what you're doing now. Like, you've built your business, you've put in so much work, you have so much to share, and now you want to get on a platform where you can be open about what you went through, what you've learned, which is right now, it might not be the hottest thing right now, but 2 or 3 years from now, when everyone starts catching on to that, hey, let's be vulnerable. Hey, let's pour back out to the youth, to the community. Let's show people that we can do this and X, Y, Z, and let me have more of an intentional lifestyle of just pouring out to people. That's gonna be huge. So that's why what you're doing is amazing, because now you're just like, hey, let me give you an insight of what my life looked like when I was building this. When everyone else was looking at me like, oh, she's that Maclash queen, she's doing her thing, boss babe, this and that. You're gonna be like, okay, well, let me show you and tell you a little bit about what I went through that journey.
And I think that was something huge for me with even just starting the podcast, is I wanted to be even more relatable. I wanted people to see, because so many people would message me and say, oh, you look so confident, or you look so like natural, and it looks so this. And I'm like, like scroll back on my page. Like, I wasn't always confident. I wasn't always natural on camera. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I had to take those steps, and I had to learn through them and figure out what felt natural to me. And that was something I was like, if ever anybody recognized me in public and followed me on Instagram, I would want them to feel like they're meeting the same person. Exactly. Because there have been people that I followed on Instagram and I'm like, oh, hi, you're so-and-so. And it's like, they don't give you the time of day, or they're like just rude or annoyed that you're even saying hi. But they've built this persona of themselves being this super nice, friendly,
that's that bullshit.
So I was like, and that's happened to me. And I was just like, if I ever have a following and someone says hi to me, I don't ever want to make them feel the way that I felt when I tried to say hi to that one girl. Yeah. And I was like, oh my word. Yeah. So, and I think too, like, just being relatable and real and raw, I think you're right. I think that's what's starting to gain more traction on social media. To the point where more people are starting to be more vulnerable. And it is hard. It's hard to start. But like we've been talking about, this overarching theme of this podcast is, once you start, you're going to be confident. You're going to get to the place you want to be. You just have to go through that process to get to that end goal.
Tell me how you feel about this, right? Because I feel like what would you... I was talking to someone else recently, someone who's very successful, someone who's very in the scene, whatever. And I asked him, I was like, so how are you doing? Like, how have you been? And he was looking at me like what? Like, off guard. Because they're so used to hearing about what they're doing on social media, what they're promoting, how their business is doing, X, Y, Z, that sometimes they want to hear about how are you doing? Yeah. So when I asked that, he was like, I don't really get asked that question much. Like, yo, how am I doing? Like, no, I don't give a fuck about your business. Like, yeah, I do. Great, you're doing something, but how are you doing? Like, is it hard for you to like have conversations with people that like you've never met you?
Wow. That's a good question. Because now that you even brought that up, I'm starting to think of questions people ask me, and it is, how's the podcast doing? How's the work going? How's the team? It's not really like, how are you? Yeah. And it's not hard to have conversations with people who don't know me, or people in the lash world, I think, ask me more lash related questions, and they ask me social media questions instead of, that's so funny. I never thought about that. But it's not really like who I am as a person or what I like outside of work. But I feel like in dating is so different. I feel like they ask more personal questions because they have no idea who Maclash is. So, but I would say people who like follow me on Instagram and know me for that ask me those direct questions rather than how are you?
Yeah, which is understandable. Like, we get it because that's their soul. But it's like, that's where like the demographic needs to switch their mindset. Like, yo, can you imagine what that would... You would probably have more of an impact in that relationship if you didn't ask what's so obvious, right? Have more in-depth conversation with somebody. And I get it. Some people are really off guard and have your boundaries, but man, I can imagine how you feel. Someone's like, how are you doing? Like, oh, I'm doing Maclash. No, not Maclash.
I would be like, what?
Like, how are you doing? Are you
Wait,
good?
like me?
Yeah. And you'd be like, oh shit. Like, well, and I get it. That's why, like, when I had that conversation with that guy, I was like, damn, like, I can't imagine being at that caliber of not just influence, but like business, having to, and please so many people, and then your business and your employees, everybody that sometimes, and that's like I go for everyone. Why do you like? I always notice like all these celebrities, famous people, they're going through so much mental health, but they have everything, right? Yeah. But it's like they're just. It's like for me, it's like just a conversation. Like, how are you doing? I think it's more.
Well, and I'm sure that meant a lot to him because it's probably uncommon.
Yeah,
I
he
feel
was-
like obviously like people in my circle or like the girls here, especially Nola, I spend more time with Nola than I think anybody down here. I mean, especially when I was going through my divorce, like they all were very much like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Like, how are you feeling? And like that was so huge
Yeah.
to me to like getting those text messages or just like when we were in person
Yeah.
down here because I felt for so long that I had to go through it by myself.
Yeah.
And then I had to deal with it alone. So it really like I really appreciated everyone who reached out and it like makes me want to like tear up a little bit. But like
Yeah.
knowing that they genuinely cared about
Yeah.
how I was feeling and like work didn't matter at that point. It was just like,
Intentional.
no, how are you? And
Yeah,
I like
intentional, yeah.
disappeared for like 4
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
I like wasn't
You have
really
to,
on
though.
social
Do what's
media.
best for you.
Exactly like you said, you kind of have to retreat and go inward. Like I wasn't really on social media. I wasn't really at the shop. Even still now, I'm not spending a lot of time down here because I'm focused on working from home and staying with the dogs.
And building everything else just outside of Maclash. Yeah. For sure.
And so it's just been, so I would say like the people close to me, obviously,
Yeah.
were checking in and actually asking how I was, but
Yeah.
not really the people who don't know me. But then again, I wasn't really sharing any of
Yeah, I
that
mean,
until recently.
The expectation's not there. Like we don't expect people to like, hey, but it's like,
Yeah.
you're always gonna remember that person, even if you never met him before. The next time you see him, like, oh yeah, I remember that person. Great,
Yeah.
yeah, he's an awesome person. Like this,
Like
and
he
that.
genuinely asked me actually
me.
how I was doing.
It's because the intentions are pure, right? When you intentionally know someone's intentions, you just know like off the bat, like wow, like
Yeah.
uh,
But yeah, that's so wild.
she's like, I'm like, whoa, I didn't think.
Yeah. I never thought about that before.
But that just shows you like on the outside looking in, right? Like I definitely probably see things that you probably don't see, and you see a lot of things that I don't see, and that's the beautiful part of coming together and saying like, yo,
Right.
like let's share perspectives because you can learn that way, and that's why it's like having that open mind is very important because you like I said, you don't know what you don't know. You can learn from so much in a different perspective, especially if you're on like this journey of trying to like build yourself in different aspects in your life. You're gonna have to connect yourself with people who can actually show you, or not show you, but like can like be there for you and like, hey, did you think about this way, or how about that
Yeah.
way, or what do you think about this, or just constantly challenging yourself, you know? So
Well, and that's the thing. I feel like that's hard because sometimes when people do start to like amass a following on
Yeah, yeah,
Instagram
yeah,
or
yeah.
something, like they start to get a big head. And for me, I was more like embarrassed by it
Yeah, I know,
almost. I'm
yeah.
like, I don't want to tell anyone that I like
Scary.
have an okay following, like a decent
Yeah.
following. And like, it doesn't make me better than anyone. I just happen to have more eyes on
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think I have taken that to heart because it gives me a bigger chance to impact more lives,
voice, yeah.
which is another reason why I wanted to start doing things like this and
Yeah.
start talking about more deep conversations. And I'm so glad that you are down to come on the pod
Yeah.
because I feel like this episode is going to give people a lot of perspective
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of insight on how to start and grow and how to kind of maybe look at things a little bit differently than they
Yeah.
have before.
no, 100%. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you had me on the pod. And first, I was nervous. I was like, "Dang, I didn't shave. My outfit's not on point. I look like a bum." But I was like, you know what? It's not about that. You know, it's about
No.
getting. And it's funny because I've always been telling Cam this, where like I'm in a place in my life now where I feel like I'm so grounded within myself that I'm open to have like broadcast conversation. That was going to be on the internet. That's going to be out and so. Like I said, like I'm not perfect. I've done some stuff that everyone's done some stuff that they're not proud of in their past, but how I always look at it is like your past doesn't present you. It's just what you're doing now that represents you in the future. Like
Yeah.
that's what matters. Like
I actually have a tattoo
exactly.
that says undefined
That's awesome.
because I was really at that time I was really adamant about letting myself know that I was undefined by my past and specifically that I was undefined by what other people thought of me because that was something I really struggled with. I was constantly worried about what other people thought instead of focusing on being myself and
Yeah.
attracting the right
Yeah.
friendships
Yeah,
and
yeah.
attracting the right relationships and knowing that kind of coming back to
Yeah.
that same thing, like you're not going to be wrong for the
Yeah.
right people.
Exactly.
It's just crazy. Life is wild.
It's wild. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just living and growing.
Living and growing. You know, I ain't trying to die. So
No, not anytime soon.
no.
All right. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap up. I feel like
Yeah.
we covered so much and
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for you to wanting to come on. So we are going to answer a couple live questions.
do it.
So we'll pull those up.
By the way, thank you for having me on.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, literally. I loved this conversation. Oh, this one is, do you have a favorite employee? I'll answer this and say no. I literally love all of them. I feel like,
Think of like your favorite thing about each employee.
That'd be
ooh,
cool.
my favorite thing about each employee, I feel like one thing I've actually really appreciated about Diana, who's been with me the longest, is she has actually given me constructive criticism and feedback to help me grow. And at first it was like, oh, my feelings are hurt, but she's just so sweet. And like another thing I love about her, like we'll be out at happy hour or something, or when we do a team night, she's the first one to be like super excited and let's get
Fired
shots
up,
going.
yeah.
And it's so funny because she's like calm and professional at work, and then outside of work she's just like, woo, let's go. And it
Yeah.
was really fun for me to see that side of her.
That's awesome.
Let's see, I'm trying to like go by beds, like where everyone sits. Then we have little Kenzie. She's just so sweet, and she's really good at being vulnerable right away and like building deep connections really quickly, which I feel like I've learned from her, like been able to be more open like that. Brittany's hilarious, and I think she's just, again, just so sweet. She drives all the way from Renton up
Dang,
here,
shout
and
out
she's
Brittany.
just
She's
like,
dedicated.
she's so dedicated. And I remember too, when she was first taking my class and like first being an employee, she's always asking like, is there something I can be doing different, or can you like help me do this? And she's just so dedicated to the craft. It's just really respectable. And then we have Kaylee, and Kaylee is Cameron's wife.
Shout out Kaylee.
Shout out Kaylee. And I first met her, she came and took my class, and same thing, just so kind. And she is so meticulous and so particular about the way she does things, especially when she was learning microblading. And same thing, she just wanted feedback to become better. And she, like, I love how she does brows, and I book my brows with her, and she, oh yeah, her attention to detail is unreal. So
Facts.
and I really appreciate that, obviously. And then we have Jenny, and Jenny is awesome. So she works at another job doing sugaring, and then she works here with us. And she actually, I really appreciate how available she is. This is going to be totally not related to work, but she has dog sit and house sit for me so many times. And one thing I really appreciate about her is when I'm gone, she like sends me pictures of the dogs. And Nola does the same thing too. When Nola's watching my dogs, like they'll send me pictures of the dogs, and she's just so sweet. And like when someone else can like love my dogs like that, I really appreciate like how available she is to like be down to help me with them. And then we have Tallulah, and Tallulah actually is originally from London. And so her accent is so cute, and she like grew up in LA. Yeah, she has an accent. She's just badass. Like she's just a rad human. She started calling us all queen. And so now like whenever I'm with her, I'm like, I love that she like calls us queen. But yeah, she's just a badass. Again, also all of them are just so, their attention to detail is incredible. And then we have Dee, our other Diana. She was so funny because when she first came on, she was a little more reserved, a little more quiet. And then we went to the Vegas trip. Little Kenzie and Dee came with me. And she was just a party, like so much fun, like such good energy. And I think that's so fun to be able to have our relationships while we're at work and more professional and chill, and then be able to like go to dinners and happy hours and everything. Kind of seeing another like side of everybody. But yeah, just the energy that she brings is really fun. And then we have Nola, and Nola I spend the most time with. I cannot say enough good things about Nola. It's insane to me how she literally thinks of things before I even ask her, or she just, her attention to detail with everything and just willingness to learn new things to help alleviate my stress of things that I can pass off to her. And she just is always on top of it. She's so organized, which is a blessing because I am so not organized, and she can come in and kind of organize my thoughts and get things together. And I just really appreciate how on top of it she is on our social media and just really keeping things moving and running smoothly. And it's like, it's so nice because I feel like I can just brain dump. And she's like, okay, let's organize it. And we're going to do this. And one of my favorite things is she does things before I ask her. Like I'll come in and I'll see that she's vacuumed because the lines are perfect on the carpet. Or I'll come in and I'll see that she's like redone my whiteboard for me for the following month. And she's like gone into my calendar and put things on there that need to be on there. And it's just,
compliments you in certain areas,
like, I don't know what I would do without Nola.
That's so crazy that you say that, because even just like my experience with working like a job, like a corporate job, the fact that you're able to name everybody and what their traits are and what you like about them, and like that means you know them specifically, that means you put time into the relationship, is so crazy, because sometimes some jobs, like, they don't even know who you are. You know, so it's like, even though like I'm about to leave my current job, and my manager, he's kind of like you. He knows about everything, but my district manager doesn't know shit about nobody.
Yeah.
So the fact that you like heard you like go into depth about each individual person, that's like crazy to me. I just had like a moment where I was like, damn, like I was like, if I asked so and so, he probably wouldn't know what the hell anything is. So that's crazy. Yeah,
Well, and they're awesome, and that's what I wanted to really focus on. That is like bringing people in that were like minded, that wanted to have a positive environment and be. You know, not that we have to be best friends, but, you know, you want to have that environment that you feel like you can ask questions and you can grow in. And it's not something that's possible everywhere. And I hope they feel that way, too. I hope they feel like it's a good, positive environment.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That's what's up.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything you regret? Do you want to answer that one?
I mean, my perspective on regrets kind of...
My perspective is different, too.
Like,
I look at it like I
like
can learn
cliche,
from it.
Yeah. Like, I don't regret anything, but like, especially where I'm at now, I've learned that probably the things I regret has probably taught me the most, and that you can't get that back. Like, you know, growth is so important to me. So, not that I necessarily regret anything. I'm just that person where it's like, yo, it is what it is. Like, it happened. Like, what did I learn from it?
Yeah.
Not really anything I regret.
I think
probably regret not shaving this morning. You know? That's it.
I would say the only thing I regret is, and again, like I didn't have the tools or the mindset at the time to be in this place where I would even think this, but now looking back, the only thing I regret is not having more meaningful conversations with my grandparents who have passed. Because at that age, you know, I was 17 to like 22, 23 when they passed away in that span of years. But like looking back, I wish I would have had more meaningful conversations. I have my grandma and then one grandpa left, and I look at them and I just think about like the conversations I have with them now are so different than the conversations I had with them when I was younger, and actually trying to get their perspective on things and have those deep conversations to kind of understand what it was like growing up in their shoes. But that would be the only thing that I really regret, because I agree with you. I think I've learned through all the mistakes that I've made that there's no point in me ruminating on this regret, because it's not going to do anything for me.
Yeah, to me, it's like it's perspective. Like what you just said right now is it's beautiful. I can say this like confidently, is that unfortunately that happened, but moving forward now, you know, to have those, why it's important to have meaningful relationship conversation with people for that reason, because you've already experienced that. Like, damn, I should have done with that person. But now I won't let that happen again. That's why every single time I have a conversation with somebody, I'm going to have this conversation that's meaningful, like learn more. So if anything, it taught you something. Yeah. It's unfortunate it happen that way. Right. But life's unfortunate, you know? So it's like, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
For real. Well, I think that concludes the episode.
Yeah.
I know this was a long one.
That was fun though.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Super dry.
I know. I've been drinking water this whole time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening or watching. If you want to be entered to win a t-shirt, leave us a comment on our latest YouTube video and we'll be picking one of those in the next couple weeks.